Hey everyone, and welcome to Masonzero MTG. If you're returning here, then you'll know that I make a cube video every time a new set comes out. I showcase my favorite cards that I think would be good for most average cubes. Sometimes I also cover Pauper cubes, as I'm a big fan of my own Pauper cube. It's not that often, though, that the Pauper cube list gets its own dedicated video. Usually it's just kind of a footnote in the regular video. But for Streets of New Capenna, I feel like I'm more excited about the commons than all the other cards. They're really strong and interesting, and I think you'll be able to find at least one in my list that's worth putting into your own Pauper cube, and hell, maybe even your regular cube. Inspiring Overseer. Look at that white card draw. This card is strictly better than Priest of Ancient Lore, since it's the exact same thing, except it has flying also. And that makes it so much better, since that's evasion. This card is incredibly playable and will be a high pick in any white deck. Tramway Station, Skybridge Towers, Racer's Ring, Botanical Plaza, and Waterfront District. I love this cycle of lands. I was a pretty big fan of the common dual lands from Strixhaven that let you pay 4 mana to scry 1 repeatedly, so of course I'm a fan of these lands that let you pay 4 and sacrifice them to draw a card. This is a great way to cash in your extra mana while fixing your mana early. And they play well with the Strixhaven lands since those are enemy colors and these are ally colors. I love lands that provide utility in the late game when you inevitably flood out. I think these are fantastic. Spara's Adjudicators, Shattered Seraph, Rakish Revelers, Masked Bandits, and Glamorous Outlaw. I debated whether to pick the 3-color fixing creatures or the lands that let you fetch 3 different colors. Ultimately, I think that these creatures are a little bit better than the lands, but that's always dependent on what else is in your cube. Each of these creatures costs between 5 and 7 mana, but lets you exile them from your hand for 2 mana in order to turn a land into a 3-color land until you decide to cast that creature, which you can do from exile at any time. Comparing to the lands, you can do this on turn 2 to fix your mana for turn 3. Or with the lands, you can spend turn 1 or 2 getting a monocolored tapped land. Both are good, but I would rather have the 3-color land and the option of casting a creature later. These also work really well in a 2-color deck, since you can get your 3rd color of mana just to cast these creatures, but in the meantime you'll have your 2 colors fixed on another land. They fix their own mana, so you can easily splash them. It can be really hard to support 3-color decks at common, but these don't even need to be in 3-color decks. And maybe these kinds of cards will encourage people to draft multicolored decks in your cube. In terms of the actual creatures themselves, they're decent. You know, they're a fine top end for a draft deck. They all have 4 or 5 power and have relatively useful abilities such as Vigilance and Menace. Some of them make a token, one of them gains you life. They're all relatively useful. Body Dropper. This set has been great for commons overall, and Body Dropper is a great example of that. It's difficult to find good common multicolored cards, so Body Dropper caught my eye instantly. First of all, it has the word whenever on it, which is always the sign of a good common, because it has repeatable effects. If you have a sacrifice theme in your cube, this is a great signpost card, and it could potentially get big. It also has a built-in ability to sacrifice a creature to gain menace, and of course get a counter, which means that it self-perpetuates. This is a fantastic build-around common. Jewel Thief. Jewel Thief has way too much text for being a common, and is being hailed as better than most of the uncommons in the set. Vigilance and Trample on a 3/3 for 3 is pretty good on its own, and is great in combat of course, but it also makes a treasure when it enters the battlefield. It doesn't even come in tapped like some of the other treasure tokens that are made by cards in this set. And it's a common! This treasure effectively ramps you into the next turn, which green decks don't exactly need help with. Either way, it's a ton of value that any draft deck running green would love. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you'll be using any of these 5 cards that I mentioned. Well, I guess more than 5, but you know, the cycles, you're not gonna run just one of those, right? Anyways, also let me know what other commons you're excited about, because I'm sure I missed some. There were ones that I didn't mention just because I wanted to keep this list to 5. There are so many good ones beyond what I mentioned here. Anyways, until next time, happy drafting.